Hey everybody, welcome back. It's another episode of the Spartan Shadows podcast. I'm one of your hosts, Chris, and I'm joined with my co-host, Emmett. Today we're here with our weekly episode, just kind of keeping you up to date on all things MSU news. Zach unfortunately couldn't join us today, but Em and I are going to hold it down for you while he is unable to join. Hopefully he'll be back next week. So in the meantime, Emmett, how's it going? How's everything been for you?
Pretty good. Just one of those slow weeks that there's not a ton to touch on. Just outside of, basketball ending that huge commitment, there hasn't been a ton that's been cycling. It's what you expect during this summer stretch. You're not going to see a ton of breaking headlines every day. And honestly, if your program's making headlines every day, unless you're on a recruiting tear, that's not a good thing. So
yeah, no, exactly. Not a whole lot going on in the summer months, like we've talked about. I mean, kind of in a little bit of a lull with football recruiting, and then you get some sparing hockey and basketball news, and that's about it. But we'll keep you up to date with what we've got. And then
first thing,
coming up here,
AD update, we have nothing. There was a hire made for the provost. I want to say vice president, but that was nothing regarding the athletic director. So if anyone had tweet notifications on for President Guskowitz, no, there is not a hire for athletic director. That was a separate role, more for the academic of Michigan State.
Right, and on that front, as we kind of mentioned when this first happened, it's probably going to take a while for this to happen.
For sure.
MSU made no mistake in saying that, they're going to hire a national search committee and they're going to have a headhunting firm, kind of look through and identify the best candidates and do a diligent interview process. So it'll probably take a little bit, but like we said, updates, we'll get them and pass them along. Football-wise, I guess we'll start there. A little bit of news. It's not officially confirmed yet, but with the MSU Football account sharing a countdown to opening day the other day on Twitter, that all but confirms the home opener will be another Friday night game this year. They posted that, I think it was yesterday, saying 100 days to Spartan football, and if you did the math right, that put it on that
100 days would have been today if it was a Saturday game.
Right, and that
we're recording this on Thursday night, by the way, just for clarity purposes.
Right.
We're recording Thursday night. That would be 100 days till the Saturday of week 1 of college football season, but Michigan State made their post on Wednesday.
Yep. So if you do the math, that should mean Friday, August 29th, I believe, will be the slated for the home opener. Mark that down. I'm sure it'll be confirmed here with kickoff times and everything within the next few weeks. And as recruiting season starts to really hype up in June, you'll get some of those schedule release informations because they like to get that out to recruits and stuff. So hopefully some more news and concrete stuff coming soon. Speaking of recruiting season, major target for MSU football's recruitment has set his commitment date for tomorrow, actually, which would be the 23rd of May. Like Emmett said, we're recording this Thursday night on the 22nd. Kory Armachee, running back from Hazlitt, 4-star. He is set to make his commitment tomorrow. He was trending with MSU and still, well, I guess let me back up a little bit. If you follow social media, there's really kind of two camps. He was trending pretty highly towards MSU. I mean, hometown kid, Jonathan Smith and company have made a pretty big push for him. And there were some crystal balls that were put out and some confidence that MSU was going to pick up his commitment, especially because he had announced his date coming up soon. Since then, there's been a little bit of momentum popping up that Kansas may have came in with a bigger offer, maybe some more playing time, potentially a less crowded running back room, as MSU has some key returning players plus Jace Clarizio coming on campus this fall. So we'll see, I guess. So it sounds like maybe Kansas is trending in that direction. I guess it kind of depends on who you look at and who you want to believe on the Twitter sphere. We'll know for sure, at least with a commitment tomorrow. That being said, it is college football recruiting. If Coach Smith and the staff really want to pursue it, it's a long time to go till signing day, as we saw really with Jace Clarizio last year. He was all but set to come to MSU, and then in the last stretch, he was he's going to commit to Alabama. Alabama flips him. Sky is falling. We lost another East Lansing kid in our backyard. He's going to Alabama, and then out of nowhere on signing day, oh, just kidding, we flipped him back. So lots of time. We'll see exactly how it shakes out, but I believe I believe December signing day is on the 4th or 6th this year, so a long ways to go before that decision's set in stone. So even if he does commit to Kansas tomorrow, if Coach Smith and staff so choose, they can really continue the push and maybe try to get a flip there. So, Emmett, your thoughts on Kory's recruitment and what's going on?
Yeah, my thoughts are, well, it would stink to see a kid 20 minutes from East Lansing end up going to Kansas. At the same time, the running back room has a ton of players on scholarship that are in their first 2 years of eligibility. You have Brandon Tolis and Mekhi Frazier, both true sophomores. You have Jace Corizio and Zion Gist, both true freshmen. All four of them, at a minimum, have at least one more will be still playing college football when Kory Armachee arrives on campus. As a result, all four of those players, like Gist was a guy who ended up missing a lot of his senior year with injury. He could have been a late riser. That's why Michigan State was able to get in at the last minute and flip him from a MAC school. Jace Corizio, as we mentioned, Bama was all over him. Tolis and Frazier have each shown a little bit of promise during their limited touches and now look to have a better chance to play behind likely Elijah Tolliver in this upcoming season, but you no longer have the two running back committee of Nate Carter and K'Ron Lynch-Adams, with both in the NFL. We'll see more touches out of those two. We'll see more touches out of Corizio. Granted, having 4 offensive 4-star commits in the 2026 class would be amazing, especially considering the lack of on-field success Michigan State has had. Let's be frank here, their best season for football results since the Peach Bowl has been a trio of 5-7 campaigns, and then you have the 4-8 campaign from 2 years ago with all the firings and everything. So a trio of 4-star commits in the 2026 class would be a great start. Overall, though, it's a matter of, at some point, in order to land these kids and be able to land it with the offers Michigan State's putting out in NIL, we're not sure of those numbers. No one really is besides the players themselves, and obviously they're not disclosing that. They're not putting a number on them. Them and Michigan State aren't going to put a number on it so that a school can outbid them. But overall, unless you want to be overpaying for players, which I'm not saying that Kory is not worthy of a huge deal, I'm just saying in order for Michigan State with their success right now to land the kids, you have to have the success on field. And that can definitely change this fall. If Michigan State goes 8-4, us losing a 4-star running back in May of 2025 is not going to be as big of a deal. With the way this running back room is loaded, the way Kory would likely impact this if he commits to Michigan State. He impacts the running back room.
Yeah.
And at the same time, this is the portal era. It makes more sense for Kory to go to the weaker running back room, especially if you're getting more NIL money, because you can shine there, especially at a Power 4 program, shine there, find a better deal if you so choose, or head back home and shine there. Once you've gotten a chance to prove yourself, you could earn more NIL money either from your current program or hitting the portal. So overall, this is a brand new era of college football recruiting. Welcome to chaos, honestly. I will not deny the people that are mad that you can't land a prospect who's 20 minutes from East Lansing, like I said. That is, I would argue that is very borderline unacceptable.
Sure.
At the same time, you have to understand, is it the end of the world? If it was an offensive lineman, the sky would be falling much more for me. It's a running back. There are 4 scholarship running backs with 3 seasons of eligibility remaining right now. Well, 3 or more seasons of eligibility. It's not the end of the world. At the same time, MSU appears to already have started making backup plans. They recently offered a kid out of Detroit Martin Luther King High School. So you could, currently a Toledo commit. As a result, you could see the Spartans pivot really, which in a way was what they did with Zion Gist. At least it appeared so at the time. And that you ended up working out. You got 2 running backs in the class. Really helped when Nate Carter declared for the draft. So I would say it's not time to panic. At the same time, a surprise commitment tomorrow because a lot of people, myself included, are expecting Kory to head to Kansas. A surprise commitment tomorrow would be great, and I would not be saying we're so back, but at the same time, definitely give me confidence and think that, Jonathan Smith is helping close that deal. Also, we haven't really mentioned this, it is a long time until December signing day. 7 months might as well be 7 years with the way the college football world works. For all we know, this could definitely be a Corizio situation where Smith, he might stay a Kansas commit for his senior year, and then once the Michigan high school football ends, Smith is knocking at his door with the Brinks truck backing up behind him.
Yeah.
So
Well, and one
overall,
thing
I don't think it's really a huge situation to panic, especially with the room. Granted, I understand the frustration. I can't blame any of the frustration. I think you need to see those results on Fridays, especially Fridays and Saturdays now, in order to get those recruits showing up, get those recruits committing in April, May, June, if you want to be like the Penn States of the world, the Michigans of the world. Even Wisconsin, despite their lack of success last year, you see them running laps around the Spartans on the recruiting trail, and that is part of the frustration. I would say that's part of my recruiting frustration right now, to be honest.
Yeah, and you got to understand too, fans on Twitter are rightfully frustrated with the state of recruiting, and I get that. And like we said, winning does solve everything, or having in Wisconsin's case, a Luke Fickell as a head coach that has the pedigree, so that helps.
And the recruiting
Jonathan Smith
Midwest, frankly.
Yeah, and Jonathan Smith doesn't yet. He's working on it. But one thing we factor in with NIL money, we don't know, like you said, Emmett, what is being thrown around to players or not thrown around to players. And with the athletic,
either.
Well, right, but with the athletic director being vacant now, I mean, with a search going for a new AD, who everybody said came out, we want to prioritize somebody with NIL. I mean, quite frankly, the NIL offers and the way we do NIL around here could be changing, and I can't necessarily fault MSU's current operations to not go all out currently when we don't know who the AD is going to be and how they're going to want to handle things. Now, that doesn't give you an excuse to lay back and do nothing all the rest of this cycle, but I would imagine a new AD will be hired at some point, hopefully before the thick of recruiting in the fall, to where we can maybe get some NIL programs in place and try to land some more kids closer to signing day, get our revamped NIL programs in, and then see what happens. But I understand it's frustrating. This isn't where we want the football program to be. There's no doubt about it. But we've had one season under Jonathan Smith. Yes, this is the second recruiting cycle, but it does take time. You can't fault kids for not really wanting to be all gung-ho to come here currently when you don't know what the NIL situation is going to be like, how the program's been doing of late. The staff seems...
During their entire career in high school, Michigan State has been a losing program.
Yep, so it's rebuilding from the ground up, and it takes a little bit of time. So I get it. In this time of instant gratification, and you see teams like Indiana be able to turn it around in a year, it can be done, and hey, maybe the new AD will prioritize stuff like that and give Jonathan Smith the go-ahead to maybe add some more pieces and make these turnarounds more expedited. But in the meantime, we just kind of got to wait and see, and it's frustrating. I get it. Ideally, kids going to Hazlitt High School would want to come to East Lansing because they know the program and they know what it can do. But we don't know the whole story with that. We don't know how the recruitment's gone, what Kansas is offering, what MSU's offering. There's a lot of factors. Yes, be frustrating. Be frustrated when he commits tomorrow, but the sky isn't falling. There's still a ton of time. There's a very good chance he could still end up in the green and white next year based on, we still have 6 months, 7 months till signing day. So we'll see what happens, but I mean, it is putting the program into especially Jonathan Smith, you're going to have to perform this year. There's no ifs, ands, or buts. We'll see what happens when the fall comes around, but that's kind of just where that recruitment's kind of forcing us to head. But in some positive recruiting news, a 3-star defensive line out of the 26 class, and forgive me if I butcher this name, I've been working on it, but I don't know if it's right or not. Dijuba, defensive lineman, he canceled his official visit with NC State in June and decided he wanted to come to East Lansing instead. So he will be on campus the weekend of June 20th for an official visit weekend. So that's some good news for the staff to get him to basically kick one of his top official visit teams out and prioritize time with MSU. So that's good to hear. I'm excited, especially because the defensive line, I think, is one of the positions we need the most help with, or help with depth, I guess I should say. So good to see some more defensive line prospects coming in for visits and hopefully to be landed by the staff. So anything on, did you, Emmett?
Yeah, so I actually was able to talk to Ba a little bit when he was first offered by Michigan State. The staff currently projects him at defensive tackle as everything stands. He is from Tennessee, I believe, hometown of Germantown, or at least that's his high school. Ironically, Germantown actually has played a pair of Spartans before. They played Keyshawn Williams and former Spartan defensive back Jalen Thompson during the last season, and Thompson and Williams' senior year of Riverdale High School. And then they also played them last year. Obviously, by that point, Thompson and Williams were both Spartans. But overall, how I would say Ba is a player that is starting to take off. Iowa has started calling, and Iowa is one of those places for any type of defensive lineman, offensive lineman, defensive lineman. If Iowa's calling you, you're doing something right. Iowa's been pushing hard for him. I want to say quite a few Big Ten schools have been pushing hard for him. I believe Wisconsin brought him in on an oath. I believe Nebraska's pushing for him too. Could be wrong here. Don't have his recruiting profile in front of me.
I do. He was in with Wisconsin. Indiana has.
Yeah, Indiana.
He's in with Wisconsin. School. Yeah, he was in with Northwestern already. Wisconsin has him next weekend, and then Iowa, Indiana, MSU to close out.
Not Nebraska, my fault. But yeah, overall, the entire Big Ten is going after the kid from Tennessee. Thankfully, the SEC hasn't noticed him yet somehow. Kind of surprising. Holds Power 4 offers from West Virginia, NC State. Then you also have Georgia Tech, Duke. But then the visits are all Northwestern, Wisconsin, Iowa, Indiana, Michigan State. So the entire Big Ten sees his talent and is trying to bring him in. Obviously, this is one that if we can land the talent that is Ba, it would be a huge victory, especially because the Spartans have yet to have a scholarship commitment to their 2026 class on the defensive side. They have a preferred walk-on, Jack Lansing. Granted, depending on how a senior year goes, that could turn into a scholarship. All really depends on the player and how the class folds out for Michigan State. But assuming somehow the Spartans can land him before another defensive commit happens, he would be the first defensive commit for this class. Just something to monitor. In all honesty, the lack of a defensive commitment on scholarship for Michigan State is a bigger concern than landing a 4-star running back with Kory Armachee right now. That's just where I'm at, especially considering the defensive line situation. And everything really folds down to, you can land a ton of 4-stars at offense, but if you are not performing and not landing defense, you can put up 40 points a game, but if you're letting in 50, going to be hard to win a lot of games.
Yeah, it's kind of the opposite of how MSU's worked in the past. And I know Jonathan Smith has a little bit of a different philosophy than, say Coach D'Antonio would or some other former Spartan coaches. But deep down at his core, he still wants to do that Big Ten brand of football where you play defense, you run the ball. So I think defensive commitments will be coming soon, hopefully within the next few weeks when recruiting really does pick up, like we said, and the official visit season starts. But
worth noting, Michigan State did make the top 8 for defensive back. Devontae Anderson out of Florida joins Louisville, UCF, Maryland, Miami, Florida, Rutgers, Auburn, Iowa. Very stacked list of offers, obviously. Worth noting that Michigan State made the top 8. However, not sure if the Spartans have an official visit lined up with Anderson yet. That said, you are still in the preliminary phase where a lot of schools have not even hosted these prospects yet.
And of course, any more updates come, we'll be the first to let you know. Switching gears over to basketball, speaking of good recruiting news, MSU did land what's presumably might be its last recruit to fill out the roster next year, but potential to have maybe another one come in, a backup point guard potentially for us. We'll see some minutes. He's one of those prospects that I think maybe you look at his stats from last year and consider it to be a little underwhelming, but he's one that stock is really rising and I think could make a big leap into this year. And that was guard Devine Ugochukwu from Miami. He was in on an official visit last week before we recorded. We had mentioned and talked about a commitment potentially being close, and he ended up announcing averaged almost 5.5 points last year, just over 2 assists and just under 2 rebounds a game in limited action. Tom Izzo really likes his game. I know a lot of people on social media have kind of been wondering why exactly he was the one they picked to go after, but knowing Tom Izzo in guards, I think there's probably something there to watch, and especially how he'll complement Jeremy Fierce, who's obviously the starting point guard. Good to see that roster fill out, another guard pick up, and hopefully he can develop into another great guard in the long list of MSU guards. So I can't wait to see him get to work with the staff and hopefully develop some skills there. What you thinking on that, Emmett?
Overall, one of the big perks of him is having 3 more years of him. I know people are saying, well, everyone's saying the biggest perk is having 3 more years of him, and that's concerning. However, he is a player who played at arguably one of the higher levels of college basketball. Yes, the ACC was weak last year. That said, he played in that Power 5, Power 6 for Division I basketball. And he's a guy that, sure, he was 17% from 3 last year. That's not great. However, and pairing him with Fears, you're going to have concerns of a lack of a true guard that can shoot the 3, pending, Jace Richardson electing to say, I'm back. And that is a concern for the Spartans. However, I am not buying the whole, well, it's a bad pickup because of that. This is a player who, he's going to be learning from Jeremy Fears. He's likely not going to be that player that you need to plug and play. He's not going to be year 1 Tyson Walker. He's not going to I would say maybe freshman year AJ Hoggard would be a good comparison in terms of minutes, and Hoggard was not the best 3-point shooter. So I would say if you're looking at that in terms of minutes, and I know AJ Hoggard, very polar among MSU fans, but overall, if you're looking at something like that, but as a backup, not too concerning. Obviously, the Hoggard concerns weren't necessarily all the time on the floor as much as coachability. That said, I'm not worried about that. I am not worried about that. Tom Izzo knows what he's doing with the staff, knows what he's doing with the players, and he was very vocal in last season among how I got this locker room back. So I would definitely not think that there's any concern there. There's never been anything about Devine having any coaching issues either, anything about any of the incoming commitments, honestly. So overall, I'm excited for this year. A little bit cautious, but at the same time, none of us had a ton of expectations for Michigan State entering last season, and then end up going to the Elite Eight. So I would say, if you're panicking over, well, I don't think Devine's going to be a good fit for the program, relax. Tom Izzo he has forgotten more about this program, and he hasn't forgotten a lot. He's forgotten more about the program than you know about this program. He knows about the culture. He knows how the players will fit. He has a vision. Let it work out.
Exactly. And just to finish off some basketball news, the Fort Myers Invitational, which MSU will be participating in this upcoming season, schedule was finalized. MSU will tip off against East Carolina on November 25th and then North Carolina on November 27th. So some official dates for some early season non-conference games down in Fort Myers. Be a nice
East
time
Carolina
to maybe...
is a new addition to the schedule, worth noting.
Yep. So if you're interested in trying to get out of the cold around Thanksgiving, Fort Myers is a great place. Maybe you can get some warm sun down there, watch some MSU basketball. Those two are locked in. Should be officially getting more non-conference schedules confirmation. We got the Duke game at some point. Champions Classic's going to get finalized, obviously, if it isn't already. So the rest of the non-conference schedule should be coming together soon, and you'll get to hear more of that hopefully shortly. So switching gears quickly over to hockey, some news and notes for the hockey program. Adam Nightingale and Isaac Howard still over in Sweden competing for Team USA at the World Championships. Team USA advanced to the semifinals. Saturday is their next game. For us here in Michigan and on the East Coast, the puck drop for Saturday's game will be at 8:20 a.m. Eastern Time, and Team USA is taking on the host country of Sweden. So be an interesting matchup. Yeah, get up early, brew some coffee, watch Isaac Howard and the boys go on and take on a talented Swedish team, probably outside of the U.S., the most talented team left in the tournament, as Canada got upset today by Denmark, which was an insane upset. But so I think the winner of this semifinal will have a good shot at winning the championship, but certainly not a foregone conclusion. But congrats to Ike and Nighty for advancing to those semifinals. Some other hockey news: after we had reported last week that a defensive commit for next season, Tyson Juggernaut, was going to be turning pro. Adam Nightingale picked up a forward commit. We officially did also get word that we have landed another defensive commit to help replace Tyson, and familiar name, I guess would say, brother of Tiernan Shoudy, Travis Shoudy, who would transfer transferred from Ferris State. He committed to MSU, so the Shoudy brothers will be in full force in East Lansing next year. Congrats to Travis. Welcome to the program. Excited to have you come in and help fill some blue line minutes, which is needed. Part of that is because one of our defensemen from this year who turned pro, Nick Andrews, there's my nice transition there. Nick Andrews signed his professional contract after the season was over. Has been playing for the Toledo Walleye in the Red Wings organization. They've made it to the Kelly Cup Conference Finals, and Nick Andrews had his first professional goal tonight, shortly before we went on the air to record. Congrats to Nick Andrews. It was a nice breakaway goal, which is not common for a defenseman, but he buried it and put the Walleye up 3-0. They ended up winning the game 4-1. Congrats to Nick on your first professional goal. Exciting times to see, so I'm glad to see he's becoming a big part of that Walleye roster as they make a deep playoff push and hopefully inch closer to a ECHL championship. Anything you wanted to add in the hockey front, Emmett?
Not really, just glad for Team USA. Obviously getting Sweden in the semis. A little bit rough, as that's arguably the best remaining team, like Chris said, so going to be seeing two of the best teams competing right there. Likely, even if Team USA loses, they likely get to play that third place game between them and I would likely say Denmark, but granted, they upset Canada, so.
Yeah, that could have been their biggest win. I mean, it is their biggest win in professional program history, but we'll see if the win hangover carries into their semifinal game. So something to look at. But that's all we had for hockey. One bit of baseball news before we wrap everything up. The baseball team made its Big Ten championship appearance. Unfortunately, it's already came to an end. Had a disappointing loss to Nebraska on Tuesday night. They lost 5-4 in the 10th. After an unfortunate ninth inning where they went into the ninth up 4-3. They couldn't hang on, ended up losing in extra innings. And then for their last game today, they took on the number 1 seed and I believe number 8 team in the country overall in Oregon. Held on for quite a time, gave the Ducks another push, but ended up falling short with a 4-2 loss today, which officially ends MSU baseball season. Congrats to the boys for getting back to the Big Ten tournament. That's always good to see. Hopefully something to build on going into next season. Rough End obviously had some chances to maybe extend their season a little bit and just couldn't take advantage of it, but it was good to see them back in the tournament and competing in tournament baseball. So congrats to them. Joseph Zerwa the other night had, I believe he notched his 100th strikeout of the season. He's just performing out of the gates. Look for him to get drafted fairly early in the summer's
that is what
MLB
stinks
draft.
about it, because with that season over, that's obviously Tuesday for Nebraska.
Tuesday, yeah.
Yeah, Tuesday game was likely the last time you see him in that Spartan uniform. Obviously, it's for a good reason. He's going to be going to the MLB draft and minor league development. And obviously the MLB, for those who don't know, the MLB development, a lot different than NHL development, where you see these players signed, well, not signed with organizations, but who have their rights with an organization, working out with pro teams, but working out with collegiate teams. You do not see that in the MLB. All the teams prefer their development in-house. So obviously, you will not be seeing you won't be seeing him back at MSU with his rights to a different team. He will be developing with them in-house.
Cross your fingers that he will stay in Michigan, maybe with the West Michigan Whitecaps, to start his professional development, because that would mean the Tigers would be drafting him. He's good enough, though.
I'll take it.
Yeah, he's good enough, though, to where you could see him probably skipping A-ball, maybe starting in Double-A. But we'll see. Congrats to Joseph. Congrats to the baseball team. Weren't expected a whole lot this year. Getting back to the Big Ten tournament was a big accomplishment in its own right. Tough end, of course, but it was good to see him back in the tournament. Like I said, I'm sure Zach will have a little bit more on it since that was his sport to cover in his team. He loves the MSU baseball team, and I know he was going through it a little bit on Tuesday night. We were texting back and forth. I'm sure he'll have a little bit more when he's next on. But congrats to Coach Boss and the Spartans on a hard-fought season with some
team putting up a fight against Oregon. They looked like they were trying to pull off a replica of what happened a couple weeks ago.
Yeah, when they already beat them once this year. They almost had them again.
Yeah, that game, I believe they tied it 2-2, heading into the 6th, 7th inning, something like that.
Yeah, 6th, I think, and Oregon just broke it open a little late, unfortunately, but It's a tough team. Oregon's probably the premier. I mean, they're the reason they're the number one seed in the Big Ten tournament. They're premier baseball team. So, but congrats to them. So, and that's really all the news we had. Did you want to add anything, Emmett?
Just a couple former Spartans. First off, congrats to former Spartan basketball player Thomas Kithier. Was recently promoted to an assistant coach at, I believe, Western Michigan. So
Yep,
congrats to him.
Stevens.
Yep. And then also, Jarrett Horst, this happened actually last week, forgot to mention on the podcast. Former Spartan Jarrett Horst, offensive tackle from the Kenneth Walker year. He recently announced that he had signed with the Montreal Alouettes in the Canadian Football League. Recently played and started, I believe, 5 games for the Michigan Panthers in the USFL. Now he'll be taking his talents north of the border. Congrats to Jarrett. Those are the 2 former Spartan news I really have. You got anything, Chris?
No, that's about it. We appreciate everybody tuning in. I knew it was going to be a little bit quicker of an episode, but we appreciate all the views and likes and shares and stuff from the off season. More football content will be coming soon, so that's going to start ramping up. Obviously, getting closer to football season. We do have an idea on a fun interactive episode that we're hopefully going to maybe do in the next couple weeks. So if you guys are interested in potentially having a couple viewers join us for some trivia based stuff, maybe reach out, comment, post, DM one of us, do something, let us know, because we could potentially have room for a couple of viewers to join in some fun stuff. So let us know. We'll put some social media posts out when that gets closer and more organized. And then also hoping to have a couple guests on here soon to get you primed for football season and the summer months. So, but we appreciate everybody. Thanks for tuning in. Zach will hopefully be back with us next week, and we'll have some more updates and maybe some good news to share on the recruiting fronts or elsewhere. We appreciate everybody, and have a good night, and go green.
Go white.